In this video, we'll be talking about the all-state audition for high schoolers in California playing timpani. The etude that was chosen for the audition is etude number 48 from Mitchell Peters' book, Fundamental Methods for Timpani. In this etude, you won't be playing a lot of roles. So when you're selecting your mallet, I would think of something with enough weight to get a good sound across all of your drums, but not something too soft because you're not really playing a lot of roles, so it should be pretty articulate. The mallets that I use are from Innovative Percussion, and they're BT5 or BT4 depending on your drum and the room that you're recording in. But I would start with these. I like the bamboo shafts because you can quickly get around the drums and they're long enough for me to get a good sound. Also, they're just articulate enough to get clarity out of all my drums without it sounding too harsh. So experiment with those two models and see which one works for you. This etude is mainly a challenge of navigating your drums very quickly. To do this, before you start playing, I would go through the etude and write in every single sticking. So you have a plan and you have a map on how to attack these passages very quickly. I don't like crossing my mallets over. Some people do, and if you're working with your teacher and that's the approach, that's totally fine. I don't like crossing them over because it changes the relationship of my stick, my mallet contact to the head. So occasionally when you cross over, you're playing at a steep angle. Or if you want to keep it at a flatter angle, you're gonna have to do little tricks with your wrist. And I think it's too fast to do that. So in this piece, several times I used a paradiddle. If I have 1, 2 and a 3, if I was going from a high drum to a low drum, I would go right, left, left. And if I had to go 2E and a 3 and a 1, it'd be right, left, right, left, digga, 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 dum, rather than crossing over right, left, left, right. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. But to have that sound quality be really excellent, you're really gonna have to practice that crossover to where you can keep the angle of your mallet contact the same. So I would recommend doubles. Also, wherever you write doubles, I would circle them in your part. That way you see them coming before you're even at that measure. So you're playing one measure, but you see in the next measure, okay, I see a circle, a double is coming. That way you know right away. This piece is really quick. The only way to perform it is to make a really good plan. This etude has a lot of time signature changes. But within the time signature changes, the 8th note stays consistent. So even though the time modulates, the 8th note is the same. And what I mean by that is I'll count 9/8, 6/8, then 3/4, like you'll see in your piece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and so it's always consistent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and so there are no real tricks. It's a steady tempo. To help you navigate this, I made a click track for you to practice along to that you can find at innovativepercussion.com. I'd recommend playing with it over and over so you make sure that your 8th note stays the same. You can technically record your audition if it's recorded with the click track, but you won't really need to if you practice it for a few days with the click track. The muffling in this etude is pretty challenging. It's hard because the tempo is so quick. Generally, when playing anything on timpani, we want to muffle in 3 different occasions. In notated rest, meaning if you see a quarter note rest on the page, you want to muffle. We're going to muffle in between drum changes. So that means if you play a C, then a G, you want to muffle the C so the G is clear harmonically. And the third way is during sudden dynamic changes. This etude doesn't really have many sudden dynamic changes, so we're mainly going to talk about the first 2 ways of muffling. The notated rests in this piece are hard because there are a lot of 8th note rest, where you go 1 and 2 and 3 and, where you're supposed to muffle on beat 2, and it's only an 8th note. If possible, you want to muffle both drums, or all 3 drums, in every rest. So if I went A, E, 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 I'd want to go A, E, muffle both, E, E, E. But for most of you, that's going to be too hard. It's too fast, and it's not your fault. It takes a long time to develop muffling technique, so you want to do your best at this audition. So what I would do for this audition, if that's challenging, is pick the drum that rings the most or that you hit last and muffle that one. So if you went A, E, muffle only the E with your other hand, then go E. So A-E, rest, E. And you can work that up very quickly. Again, you're going to want to write in the sticking so you know what hand needs to be where to muffle that drum. The next part that you're going to muffle is during the longer notes, so like a dotted quarter note in the 9/8 section. That happens halfway through the piece. Basically, it's like we said before, when you play left hand, then right hand, then left hand, you want to muffle at the exact same time. So left, then you play your right, and you muffle your left, and then you play your left and muffle your right. This is very hard if you're not used to muffling, and if this isn't going to work for you, that's totally fine. Just stick to the notated rest. But if you can muffle during this, it's a very good technique to use. I often think of it as a backwards flam. So if you played a double stop, you might risk muffling just before you play the next note, and you're going to hear a gap. If you think an actual flam, you will definitely hear the gap. So you play the left, then you accidentally muffle the left first and play right. You don't want that because, as we said before, it's a notated dotted quarter note. So what you want to do is muffle just after you hit the next note. That way it hides your muffling. The audience won't hear where you muffled. They'll only hear the pitch that's ringing, and that's the goal. I made an example of all these muffling techniques and made different exercises for you in the PDF that I included on innovativepercussion.com. One of the more fun parts of this piece is time signature changes. Most composers write time signatures only to imply a musical sense of direction. The audience never sees a time signature, it's the performer. And the composer writes a time signature so he can translate, or she can translate, what the music is supposed to be. So when you're playing very quickly in 3/4, you don't want to sound like daga da daga 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 daga. You want to make it feel like a waltz, make it feel like 3. So daga da daga 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 don daga don daga daga don daga daga don daga daga dum. Right? So don't let just a flurry of notes happen. You want to be very musical and structured. So 9/8 will feel different than 6/8. 9/8 is kind of a big waltz. Then 6/8. Okay, so think about every single time signature and how you can tell the audience what the composer's intention was musically. My last tip in the timpani etude is about rolls. There aren't many rolls in this piece, but there are rolls that are marked forte piano. That means that a note starts loud, gets soft, and then grows in a crescendo. On timpani, most people make the mistake of just launching into a roll really hard and then slowing down their hands and then speeding it up. On timpani, often, and in this etude especially, we want to strike the note once, strike the drum really loud, let it ring for a split second, and then start rolling soft. So don't play 2 notes at once and just start rolling. Play the note and then let it ring as you creep in for a crescendo. That's how you'll play it in almost every instance that you see forte piano on timpani. And remember, of course, these aren't buzz rolls. They're single stroke rolls, and you can control the roll speed. You could start slow and speed up. So best of luck making your audition tape this year, and we really hope to see you in the ensemble this spring.